Hey, Max Living Chiropractic First and Integrative Medical Faithful. Dr. Jared here, bringing you the start of another masterclass. You might notice I intentionally misspelled it or put dashes. If you don't know why, you'll know why later. But I do want to start this just with a little bit of a disclaimer. We are going to really go through both statistics for why you need to think for yourself on immune system building and what I personally do and what we feel is a great way to help build your immune system. If you are starting to watch this and you're somebody who loves to watch the news, believes absolutely everything that's stated, has no idea that there's massive censorship, this is probably not the right seminar for you. Additionally, I love when people post comments. You are welcome to post whatever you like. However, I will not debate. I won't respond. In fact, negative comments will flat out be deleted. This is a seminar that is specifically for our client base that is meant to empower. So that is where we're going to start. An immunity makeover, immunity masterclass. The simplest thing I'm going to say is we are looking for cause over condition, cause over symptom. What is the way that you build your immune system? What is the root cause of the problem? Therefore, you can actually fix it. You know, when I recently had a plumbing issue at my house, I didn't try and treat the symptom. We tried to clear the drain. We tried to get to the root cause of the problem. The same is true in your body, although it's much, much more complex. In fact, it's much more complex than likely any of us will truly understand in our lifetime. Depending on what studies you read, understanding things like the immune system, the innate responses in the body, how your body heals, there's 1% understood or 10% or whatever it is. Knowing that the brain is so dynamic and it's plastic and it has the opportunity to change, and everything from your mindset to your behaviors to your habits, all influence this. And that's the cool part, is you do have the opportunity to influence your body's immune system. That is a beautiful thing, in my opinion. So, starting with this immunity makeover, our mission is simply to empower people to live healthier lives through chiropractic treatment and integrating the 5 essentials of max living: nutrition, detox, exercise, mindset. We believe very strongly in the freedom of speech. This slide here, if you're watching this on your phone and it's hard to see, it just very simply says, who do you trust? Who do you trust for your information? Who do you trust to help you with your health? And you think about that, we should be able to trust the largest governing bodies in our country, but that in many cases has come into question. And I'm not here to tell you what to think, but I am here to say that if you're not assessing it, you may be getting some bad information. One of the simplest things I say to people when they ask me about anything related to our current recommendations, whether it's business openings or on and on and on, I just say you shouldn't have to force people to do something that works. For all those that come to the clinic and get chiropractic treatment, I doubt you're investing time, effort, and money because you don't think it works. I doubt you're doing it because somebody made you do it. If it didn't work, you wouldn't come. If it didn't work, you'd do something else. And so there is a reality of if someone doesn't want to do something, this whole concept of misinformation or like stupidity or education level, in my opinion, is somewhat laughable. I mean, the reality is when things work, you do them. And there are so many things that were accepted as true in their time that were 100% wrong. You can go back not that many years ago, someone won a Nobel Peace Prize in medical science for jamming an ice pick up somebody's nose to scramble their brain when they were depressed. It's called an ice pick lobotomy. It's insane. When you talk about safety, there are drugs, there are things that have been left on the market for decades that absolutely were harming people the medical companies knew they were harming people. In many cases, people in the FDA or the CDC knew they were harming people. Look up Fen-Phen, 24 years on the market. How about Vioxx? Vioxx, 70,000 deaths from heart attacks, and then it's repackaged and sold at 80% of its of its original strength and resold. You can go down the line. I don't want to waste too much time, but there is a reality. The current jab makers, every single one of them has paid billions of dollars in repercussions for falsifying research, bribing doctors, and paying medical electronic records companies to promote their product. So, the most recent one, our CEO of our larger corporation went through the numbers on it at the seminar I was at. Johnson & Johnson just paid $10 billion for opiates. Opiates, OxyContin, the Purdue family. I should have had the book right here. I think it's on my computer. But, if you pay $10 billion for falsifying research, that was the cost of 600,000 American lives dead from opiates, confirmed. And you think about it, oh, that sounds like a lot of money. Not when you have $850 billion in revenue and you have to pay $1 billion a year back. It's laughable how small that fine is when a company is intentionally, knowingly putting profit over lives. And so for those people that say, any life lost is a tragedy, I completely agree, but I think we have to look at it on a wider scale. And so going into this, who do you trust? Unfortunately, you have to figure out who that is for you. Who do you trust? For me, I want to share, if you want some better sources of information, I'm going to reshare this again. I'm not typing it in the comments because, of course, there's that C word for censorship, and we want to try and get this to as many people as possible. But websites like Mercola, MERCOLA.com, Stand for Health Freedom if you want to petition your representatives for your rights, and greenmedinfo.com. All have great information that can help empower you, tell you where to reach out to your state and local governments, support petitions, not be silent. I just read an article this morning that stated that there's been over 2.1 million adverse reactions reported to the World Health Organization already. Another thing was, this whole the non-jabbed are all the ones that are dying. Ask a nurse on a floor. I mean, I personally have asked lots, and it just doesn't match up with what's being put in the news. So again, who do you trust? On top of that, this whole idea of hiding, staying away from people is completely fine. And in fact, I support people that are immunocompromised and staying away if that's what they. But think about this: when people were quarantining, or whatever you call it, 40% of adult Americans gained 30 pounds. No matter how you look at it, heart disease and cancer are still the top killers. Immune system strength goes down when you gain weight. So while it's, again, up to the person's choice whether or not they do that, did they really strengthen their immune system? Not only were they not exposed to other germs, but on top of that, many people gained a ton of weight, had very bad health habits, Netflix binges, all this kind of stuff. And here on this is another CDC article about being sued for misinformation, for misinforming. And if you just want to look at our country, look at kids. We have one of the worst infant mortality rates in the world. At least half of children are diagnosed with one chronic disease. Childhood cancer is the leading cause of death outside of accidents in children. 1 in 7 children is on an antipsychotic. 1 in 6 is considered learning disabled. 1 in 12 has asthma. You can go right down the line. It is not a very healthy way to currently operate. And there's a whole lot of collateral damage. We now about 15 months ago had the heads of Reformers Unanimous on an interview, and they talked about just in the first 2 months of quarantine that abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse had gone up 400%. Addictions had gone up radically. I mean, children are being harmed. There's a whole lot of issues that are also being developed with this. And I don't even pretend to have the answer, but what I will say is there's a lot you can do to strengthen your immune system and be the solution for yourself and your family, and have faith over fear. Continuing from a service standpoint, we have the opportunity to meet and see a lot of people from very many different ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds. Obviously, the majority live in Rockford or the Rockford area, but I also have a network of Max Living doctors that have also supported this. I mean, stress levels are so incredibly high no matter what side you're on, and negative emotions do decrease your immune system. So, de-stressors, meditation, journaling. I can't tell you how many people talk to me about how they just are restless at night. They can't sleep. They wake up after 4 hours of sleep. And, there are certain things now more than ever that for your immune system itself, staying away from TV at night, not reading negative things on your phone, not constantly watching the news. But this affects your immune system. And if you don't know that, you need to know that. I'm going to make this really big because they talk about generation living in fear. All the way back when the California wildfires started, people were wearing one of the things that you see on the screen, and the health departments or whoever came out and said, smoke particles are too small. That's not a good prevention for smoke inhalation. Now think about that. Smoke is much larger than a virus, and yet it doesn't prevent smoke. Additionally, there's an argument that could be made that if you're wearing something that you're constantly breathing heat and moisture onto, if it does have viruses or bacteria on it, what are the odds that you're continuing to grow that and breathe it in over and over and over? How many people don't wash those things often enough? I'm not saying you should or shouldn't wear one. Just again, from an assessment standpoint, is it that effective at prevention? And regardless, you should be strengthening your body's internal more than the external put on it. This for many people is a paradigm shift. And so one of the things that I talked about last year when we did the 6-part series on immune system, it was very simply germ theory versus terrain theory. I had two clients yesterday, husband and wife, great, fun, kind people. And they came in to get adjusted together. And one of the things that the wife said was, I'm just getting over a stomach bug. And I said, oh, interesting. How'd you get that? And she said, well, I think my son gave it to me. And I said, okay. So from a simplistic standpoint, how come you got it from your son? You sleep next to your husband didn't get it. And she said very simply, my immune system is not as strong as his. So two people living in the same house, exposed to the same person, one gets it, the other doesn't. And even after that, even after the next person gets it and they're more closely exposed, likely they kissed, like they could have shared a glass of water, any of that kind of stuff, while she was contagious, yet he never got it. What's it come down to? It comes down to your immune system. And again, the beautiful thing about that is he likely developed immunity to that thing that he was exposed to without ever feeling sick. That is the germ theory versus the terrain theory. Now, this is the most common thing that we show for this. If you have murky, muddy, damaged pH water, and you have a fish in there, would you continue to leave all the things that cause the disease or cause that fish to be sick and continue to jab against that? Or would you clean the fish bowl? Would you make the better quality food? When friends of mine, when they have, like, for instance, when their dog's getting older and they start to get tumors, they clean up their diet, and a lot of times the tumors shrink. It's like, what's the difference? Well, you're going to the terrain theory. The terrain theory is to strengthen the host, strengthen the thing that's going to come in contact with it. And they have shown, again, consistently, the more things you're exposed to, and especially the more things you're exposed to at a younger and younger age, the healthier you are and the better your immune system as you get older. I've mentioned this on pretty much every single seminar on the immune system, but the article from the pediatrician in New York City that said, if you want to build your child's immune system, let them roll around on the subway floor. I mentioned that for all three of my children, I come home and before I wash my hands at night, I put my finger in their mouth as long as they're healthy. So I want to expose them to not only my germs, but the germs of other people that I've interacted with recently toward the end of the night. Why? Because I want to build their immune system. Last November, when I had the big C word, as soon as we made sure our kids were healthy, and when I was quarantined, we shared water, and we intentionally built the immune system of all of the family people. And now here's the thing. We exposed them over and over and over. Their lymph nodes got huge in their neck. I checked them, but everybody continued to test negative. Yet what are the odds that they have immunity? And we're going to talk about that more a little bit later. And, for those people that don't really understand antibodies versus B cells versus T cells, really the difference, and specifically related to, I'm going to use it related to the flu, just so we talk about something different. But when I talk about focusing on the host, here's a great example. This morning I played basketball, 20 guys, great group of men, and, physical fitness, exercise. There were multiple articles over the last year that showed that people who exercise had lower likelihoods of being a carrier, lower likelihoods of spreading. But even for yourself personally, there's studies that show exercise can help reduce illness risk by over 40%. Why? Because again, you're heating your body up, you're strengthening it. This whole concept of being afraid of a fever is another thing that drives me personally absolutely crazy. Why? Well, a fever is your body's immune system at work. And being afraid of a fever is fear. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like this, a fever, when your fever gets up to 101, 102, 103, you're killing viruses and bacteria. Now think about this. Just regarding viruses, there was one study that showed that a virus can double in your body every 20 minutes. So think about if you take a medication when you or your child gets a fever and you break that fever for 12 hours. That means that virus has the ability to double 36 times. It can double 36 times. What happens if, do the math on your calculator, what happens if you take a penny and double it 36 times? Hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars by doubling it. So then when your body's that sick, what happens? You get sicker and sicker. It takes stronger drugs. Sometimes then you need steroids. But letting your body run through a fever, the majority of research shows that you should not break a fever unless it gets close to 105, 104 and a half. I mean, I have in one of my children, we had to break their fever. He was at 106.5 one time. But think about that. By not letting your body work, you may cause more issues. I am very perplexed by this whole concept of giving someone steroids early for breathing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not treating that person medically, but the concept I really struggle with. If somebody's really sick and can't breathe, by all means. But if you give somebody steroids and negatively impact their body's ability to let the immune system work, is it better or worse for that person? Cause over condition. Cause over condition. So there are certain things that you can take. There are certain things that you can do. But I don't want to have a big supplement seminar here. I want you to think about what are you doing that you already know works, like exercise, like healthy eating. One thing I was talking about with my friend of mine this morning. There was somebody in the CrossFit community who was listing off research article after research article, and they're promoting the Whoop watches, WHOOP. And I do have one, but I'm not necessarily promoting them. But one of the biggest things they talk about is heart rate variability as an indicator of health. Now, if you need to understand heart rate variability, I'd suggest you Google it. But heart rate variability as it relates to health. And so when you're looking at heart rate variability, one of the things that's most linked to is exercise, but they actually showed that what you eat can influence heart rate variability. If you're eating crap, if you're eating chemicals, if you're eating it does affect heart rate variability. And so what you eat, how much stress you have, are you de-stressing, are you exercising, are you getting adjusted and helping your neurology decompress, stimulating your immune system, and are you pulling toxins out of your body? If you're not, why not? Think about that. Especially if you have concern over the current pandemic, let's say, especially, why are you not focusing on the things that really build health? Because that's the thing. Your body already has a natural immune response. It already has one. And the natural immune response short term is antibodies for many, many conditions. And of course, that's a very popular term right now, talking about antibodies, antibody response. But think about this. With the flu, there's about 4 flus a year, so the flu mutates. So if you've ever heard somebody say, we're not sure you could catch it if you can catch it again, there is not a virus in history that has had the majority of the population can catch twice. There's not. Now, there are viruses that mutate, variants, again, that you're hearing about. So, for instance, the flu, on average, varies about 4 times a year. One cool thing, University of Illinois is one of the universities that studies this. It was the first day of molecular and cellular biology was when I was in college. They went over the flu pyramid, how it went down, how it mutates, the different strains. One of the cool things, though, is that when you first get exposed to the flu, your body makes antibodies, and then it turns them. Then the memory goes to your B cells and to your T cells. Now, these are not as easily studied; they're not as easily tested, so it's more difficult. But they've shown that your T cells have a memory for the flu for about 60 years. So why do the same strains of the flu not get caught again? It's because as people catch them, they develop herd immunity. A strange concept. In fact, here's where corruption you may want to look at. The definition of herd immunity was changed in the last 18 months on the World Health Organization's website from exposure to naturally enough people or jabs. It was changed to the only way to develop herd immunity was jabs. Now, it might have been changed back, but for a period of time, it literally took off that humans by nature. And think about this. The bubonic plague killed 1/3 of Europe. And again, was that scary? Would you hope that people would have been able to figure out how to heal faster? Of course, the 1918 flu killed 1 in 6 people worldwide. But again, how did it go away? People developed herd immunity. And they do that through their immune system, through memory. And so I've talked about this many times, but for those people that get the flu shot, I've always personally been anti. I've never, ever gotten one, and I never plan to get one. And here's why. I've been exposed to the flu for years and years, and when you get exposed to one type of flu, you naturally have more immunity toward the other types in most cases. Now, flu shots, artificial immunity wears off within about 5 years. Flu shots wear off within about 5 years on average. There was actually an article years ago, I had a patient bring it in for me that stated that it was in the Rockford Register Star. It said, if a true pandemic ever occurs, those that got 5 flu shots in a row or more would be more likely to die due to a decreased immune system. Because if you're constantly putting out fires with more aggression than you need to, look at this picture, natural immunity versus artificial immunity. I am modifying my language here in case I'm sure you noticed because of censorship, because of the censorship that occurs. But again, think about that. So if you get flu shots year after year, it wears off within about 5 years. You're already hearing about waning immunity and boosters. Now, who are you hearing about the boosters about? The ones that have natural immunity or the ones that have artificial immunity? Yet the media or the news would tell you, well, we have no idea how long people who have been exposed to the real virus have immunity, but we're just not sure. So therefore, get the jab because you need it. Now, the last study that I saw showed that people that had already had natural immunity that got the artificial immunity as well had somewhere between a 200 to 400% increase in adverse reactions. So when somebody says it's selfish for you to not get that, I am absolutely baffled at that comment. Just absolutely baffled. Again, you shouldn't have to force people to do things that work. Additionally, think about this. If somebody had polio, did they give them the polio jab? No. If somebody had the measles, did they? No. You know, you think about if you have a immune response and already get it. Like, nobody asked me to get the chickenpox vaccine at my last checkup. Why? Because once I had chickenpox, I'll never get it again, or it's a very, very, very low likelihood. So what sort of craziness to then say, if you've already had it, you should get it anyway. As far as I'm aware, first time in world history that that's ever been suggested on the most experimental jab in world history. So again, I'm not spending much more time on it, but just think about this. The flu, you flat out don't hear about. Plenty of people go to their doctor and got a flu shot this year. And it's like, it doesn't make sense. Again, the research shows that in a pandemic, that's something that you should probably stay away from. But now they're blending the two, or it's like, where are we going with this? Again, cause over condition. How are you strengthening your body to function better, to be stronger, to have more natural immunity? Here's my last example of these things. So I was born in 1985. I'm about to turn 36. Maybe that I don't know if that makes me young or old, depending on who's watching. But I personally received 1/3 of the doses that children currently receive. 1/3. Now consider this, and this I've again always been baffled by this. Not one new thing added to the childhood schedule was a deadly infection, had a high rate of death. The things that were added were things like chickenpox. And, you can argue, there's a lot of stuff that shows that, Darwin's law, only the strong survive, that certain things like the whooping cough jab has links to things being more serious, like RSV. If you didn't read the article, it showed this summer, RSV had the highest rates of infection than any summer in history. Why might that be? You come to your own conclusion. Why might that be, though? RSV is supposed to be a wintertime infection. Whooping cough, while very uncomfortable, is not near as serious as RSV. Again, go down the line. 1/3. Yet autism rates are higher. Asthma rates are higher. Allergy rates are higher. Autoimmune conditions at all ages are at record numbers. Why? Autoimmune is your body's immune system attacking itself. When you mess with your immune system, you screw it up. Let your body heal the way you're naturally designed to. Do things that build it. Again, if you love the news and you think that the way we're handling this is perfect, please, I suggest you not watch this. If you're not, think about this. Think collectively. Please, please, please think about that. Why would adding all these things somehow make people better? So that's my last reason as far as talking about what it does to people. But here's the other thing from a corruption standpoint. Pharmaceutical companies are not liable for damages if you're harmed. There is a special vaccine court. There's a special jab court where there's a tax that goes to these courts or goes into a fund. And if you're injured, you sign away your freedom of speech in most cases to get payouts for the damages for death rates. The flu shot just happens to have the highest payouts of any of those things in courts. Why? Because for a period of time, or one of the reasons that they say, for a period of time it was mandated. Why do you think it was mandated during experimental times? Because you can't sue in vaccine court. Crazy, 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 crazy to think about. Vaccine consent forms right off the CDC website. There is no federal requirement for informed consent. relating to immunization. We have magazines at the office, and I suggest you take one. There's currently an article that's been passed in Congress that would allow your children at age 11 to give it their own informed consent, be jabbed at school, and then that information be concealed from their parents. Insanity at the moment. The truth is being censored. On July 4th of 2020, I made a post about Stand for Health Freedom, and within one day, our viewership on Facebook and YouTube went down by 70%. That's why we have to email these things out. Is literally we are being censored, and all we're doing is trying to promote your health. Imagine what some of these other things are being censored. Now, why would they be censored? Well, this isn't the only reason, but here's an article. For instance, Google and GlaxoSmithKline just happen to have biomedical companies together. There's profit in these things. Is it all for profit? I don't know. But again, Johnson & Johnson, $850 billion in revenue, paying $1 billion a year for falsifying, claims and whatever else I stated before regarding the death of hundreds of thousands of Americans due to opiates. We believe you're capable of healing. I believe you are powerful. You should live with faith over fear. It's not saying that life's perfect, that you have to act perfectly, but you have the ability to strengthen your immune system. You do that through exposure to germs. You do that through exercise. You do that through adjustments. You do that through healthy eating. You do that through mindset. Whether that for you, that's reading the Bible, having a journal. One of my favorite things I've been doing lately is something called the 5-minute journal. It's actually right across my table right here. I love this for gratitude, morning and evening. Absolutely love it. You can get these on Amazon or intelligentchange.com, but I love this journal. And again, it shapes my mindset. It helps me shift into a more positive arena because you are capable. The last thing I'm going to talk about today specifically is what a virus is and why you want to think about strengthening your body. A video that we posted from a virologist over a year ago talked about how, in a 10 by 10 square foot room, you're likely exposed to 10 to the 36th power of viruses. Viruses are not living. They need to use your host to multiply. So who's the most likely host? The immunocompromised, the weak, the people who are not strengthening their immune system. Viruses then develop or multiply within cells, and then the cell explodes and it goes on to the next and the next and the next. You have things in your body like natural killer cells, white blood cells, B cells and T cells that catch these viruses and kill them. You are constantly exposed to viruses, constantly. And so, being afraid of a virus or saying a virus is just going to wear out, we have to develop herd immunity, in my opinion. And again, that's just my opinion, and you take it for what you want to do. But you should have the power to do what you want. You should have the power for free speech. Right now, it's being restricted. And so again, use these things, empower your family, know that there is that regardless of whatever's out there, the healthier you are, you will never, ever, 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 ever regret being healthy. You'll never know what that health did for you, but you'll never, ever, ever regret being, investing in your health, in my opinion. I've lost friends this year to blood clots. One of the biggest side effects of something that's being mandated right now is I lost a friend who, passed away in I'll leave them anonymous, but I lost multiple friends in their 30s this year with blood clot related issues, heart related issues, inflammation related issues. It is just, there are, again, millions of reported adverse reactions. What's the downside of exercise? What's the adverse reaction of eating healthy? What's the adverse reaction of meditating? What's the adverse reaction of a chiropractic adjustment, of detoxing your body? What is it? You can only be better. You can only be better. So I implore you to be better. First word is strong. The first word for those of you that have the mystery words, the first word is strong. You have the ability to be strong. Be strong. Live well. Empower others. Be strong together. There's never been a more important time. Love and appreciate you all.